It's Shootin the Bull, a podcast by Idaho Department of Fish and Game.
DJ's deflecting.
It's the not me
Every
ghost.
opportunity.
Tell
That's
me
what
why
I do.
Broken.
That's what I tell my kids. It's the not me ghost.
Yeah, right.
At it again.
Get this all dialed in here.
How old are your kids?
9 and 6.
9 and 6.
Yeah.
Are you having more?
No.
No.
No. Can't afford that.
Oh, no joke, man. We have 4 kids, and we get our eggs from Norm,
Yeah.
and I'm honestly probably buying, like, he'll bring 10 dozen in at a time, and I'll pick up 10 dozen eggs, because literally to sit down and have a breakfast with our family is like a dozen eggs, a package of bacon, and like half a loaf of bread. That's like one freaking meal. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh.
How old are yours?
12, 11, 7, and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's freaking
Just
game
get
on
ready.
in our house.
Get ready.
Yeah, you've got
Yeah.
4?
3.
3. Yours are older.
19.
The fourth one's on the way.
15. Oh, wouldn't that be something? 15 years in between the two.
Yeah.
Pass. Hard pass.
That's it. Yeah. My wife's sister just had another kid. There's 18 years of difference.
Gosh. Literally starting over.
More power to you.
By accident or intentional?
Intentional.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
Wow. Good for
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's fine.
It's fine. Just roll it.
This is all fine.
Bam, right ear dominance, so that's way better.
DJ kind of looks like an airline pilot.
Yeah.
Like a air traffic control.
Yep.
Take that as a compliment.
Ready for
Yeah.
takeoff.
Yeah.
Takeoff.
Speaking of takeoff, let's get this thing rolling.
Get this thing in the air.
Let's get clear. So we are here. This is Shootin the Bull. We are here up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, at our Panhandle regional office, and we're kind of sitting in with our buddy and our what would you call TJ? He's kind of like our regional affiliate.
Well, he is. Not kind of like. He is our regional communications manager in the Panhandle.
Yeah, and we're kind of crashing his pad. We got TJ here, but we also are joined by a couple of conservation officers.
Senior conservation officers. We'll get to that.
Yep. So we got Jacob Berl and Kris Bragg here. Welcome, fellas.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We already covered that Jacob doesn't listen to Shootin the Bull, so this will probably be his first episode. That
He may not listen to this.
I can
one
promise
either.
that I maybe will not listen to this one too.
yeah.
He'll send it to his family and say, "Look what I did," and never pay attention to it. Other than that,
But we're going to talk about some conservation news today. Talk about some of the day in the life stuff that you guys do up here in the Panhandle. I think have we covered a conservation officer now in every region? Pretty darn close.
pretty close. We've talked to several of them, and I'm interested to hear you guys' take on how it's different from everywhere else. We've been in salmon. We've done the southeast to be released.
Many in the Southwest.
A couple in the southwest.
Yep. And then a few local fellas at
Yep.
HQ.
Magic Valley.
Yep. How long you guys been here at the agency?
So I am going on, just over 8 years actually. Yeah, started in February of 2017. So, yep. How about you, Chris?
Yeah. I'm just over 3 years here with Fish and Game in Idaho.
And you guys both start at this region, or you bounced around a little bit?
No, so I started, I was assigned to Idaho Falls when I first started, and I was there for 2 years, and had the opportunity to move up north, and it was a good fit for me and my family, so that's what we decided to do. And so I've been in Coeur d'Alene ever since then.
Did you have a ecology background, or did you go straight for the enforcement route?
So I have an educational background in biology, ecology, but my first employment with Idaho Fish and Game is in enforcement, in this position.
Sick.
Well, hold on a second. What is your educational background? Because I find this very interesting.
Yeah, so I guess we can get into that. So my educational background, I do have a bachelor's degree in wildlife conservation and management, a master's degree in wildlife and fisheries resources, and a PhD in wildlife science. So I did have a background more on the research side of the wildlife field or world, and really enjoyed that aspect of wildlife, the broader spectrum of wildlife management, but ultimately kind of came back full circles to my roots, which was wanting to be a conservation officer or a game warden, and that's specifically what led me to Idaho to do this position in this specific state.
Do we have to address you as doctor?
Doctor officer, actually.
Doctor officer.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that is the official address. Yeah.
When you're out checking fishing licenses and stuff, do you get do folks have to also call you doctor officer?
Well, no, I mean, because they don't know, right? I mean, that's
Okay.
To any member of the public of the state of Idaho, I'm just any other fishing game officer, just like anybody else. So
Until the
nothing-
second time around.
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
better get it right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Chris? Where are you from originally?
Yeah, I mean, I bounced around quite a bit. I actually went to college in Montana.
Okay.
Where I got just my bachelor's degree. I'm not, not at that level.
Not an overachiever,
Yeah.
apparently.
Which was in it's called environmental interpretation. It was like wildlife biology and outdoor education mixed together. Then I bounced around for a little bit. I actually worked as a game warden in Nevada for a bit, and then worked for Moscow PD for a few years, and then worked in Region 2 as a CO when I got hired.
Okay.
Then bounced up here last year.
Chris, I didn't know all this about you.
Yeah, what do you
Yeah.
you look like you're 30 years old, but you just described like a 55-year-old's resume.
No, I bounced around. I couldn't decide what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I went to college. I got out of college as quick as I could, so I could go, and I worked in Alaska for a little bit and guided hikes, teaching fly fishing. Then I came back to Montana and taught fly fishing some more.
Man, you should have come with us yesterday, this weekend.
Well,
Teach me a lot.
Yeah. DJ, what about you, man? I don't know if we've had you on the show before.
Yeah.
How long you been at the agency?
I really doubt he talked about himself.
No, I don't think I did.
No.
13 years.
Okay.
13 years all in the Panhandle. Love it up here.
But also with a research background.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of one of those weird, rare transplants that goes
I am.
from the fisheries world to communications world.
Started in fisheries research and jumped over to communications and haven't looked back. I absolutely love it. It's a blast. Getting to do stuff like this, super fun.
Yeah. Jacob, did you have any other position within the agency at all, or was it straight into?
No, not with
Enforcement.
IDFG. Yeah, so I've only had one. Well, I was a conservation officer before I became a senior conservation officer. But no,
Okay.
yeah, with this agency, I've always been in the enforcement realm. So
Okay. It
yeah.
sounds like with this agency. What was there a previous agency?
No, not a previous state agency, but I guess I spent a lot of time in academia before this. In the
He's a
research
doctor.
world. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am a doctor technically.
And probably a professor.
Well, that was like my career goal, before I to back up just a little bit. I mean, when I was younger, my backstory is I wanted to be a conservation officer. Went to college to get a wildlife degree so I could become a conservation officer, and then kind of got interested and involved in the research side of the wildlife field and kind of took a liking to that, and then decided to, in fact, I actually applied for this position, for a conservation officer position with IDFG when I was coming out of undergrad, and also simultaneously applied for a master's position, an assistantship in West Virginia, and was offered that position for the master's assistantship, and was still in the interview stage with the conservation officer position, and it was kind of a bird in the hand, two in the bush scenario, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try my hand at the research thing, and I really enjoyed that, got involved in teaching and that kind of stuff, and did see myself pursuing that career and, teaching in higher ed and that kind of stuff, and which led me to my PhD. And kind of when I was finishing that up, not that I got burnt out on research, but it does speak a little bit to why I like the conservation officer position and role within wildlife management. But, research is very big picture, right? I mean, you're conducting, research that's going to eventually be passed on to managers who are hopefully going to make decisions on that. We're going to implement those, laws and policies, and then ultimately enforcement folks are going to enforce those laws and policy. And so you have to think very big picture about what you're doing. And maybe I'm just a simple-minded guy, but I like the idea. I wanted to come back full circle to a enforcement position where every day I go to work, I can go home and say that I did something that day, and there's some tangible element to it that I really like. So that's the full circle story of how I came back to wanting a position as a conservation officer, which is what I wanted to do when I was a little kid. And so applied for the job here and had some buddies from undergrad that already had the position here and really talked up Idaho and the way the position is drawn up here. And that's what led me specifically to Idaho from Indiana to come here and do this job. So,
Kris, is it similar for you on the education front? Like, does this job, are you able to kind of, I don't know, feel that need to teach?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, kind of like Jacob. I really like the education stuff. I actually almost went to school to be a teacher, thought about it for half a minute, and then realized it'd be really, really hard to get enough time off to hunt. So, no, can't do that. But no, I mean, we get a lot of opportunity to, every time we contact someone out in the field or we're just talking to people, we're, constantly educating. And we get to do the hunter education stuff. And so, yeah, it definitely fills that need.
And it's not just rules and regulations that you're educating either.
Yeah.
You're able to talk, like, particularly if you have kids around, or I don't know that when you show up on a call that there's just laymen out there, but if there's kids, you can take that opportunity to talk about whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, if they're out there fishing, they say, hey, why don't you try this lure and try, putting it here, or if they're out hunting and say, have you tried doing this or that? I mean, you're talking to them, it's education, but it's also like getting them excited about it and getting them more involved, because that's what we need. We need them to get more excited and involved in this so it continues on.
Yeah. Jacob, I had a question for you. First of all, what did you study in your doctorate work? What were you focused on?
So my doctoral dissertation research was I actually work with rodents, with mice specifically, but also some other small mammals.
Like beyond working with them in the patrol cabin?
Yes, yeah. Well, that's why I have such a good tight lock on all of the mice and rodents that invade that cabin, is because I know exactly how to, I know how they think, so I can.
You're very strategic with the way you laid out the traps. I don't know if that was you or someone else.
Well, I call it a kill zone.
Definitely was a zone.
Right, it was a zone. That's actually the reason behind that is more just for the mess that a bunch of mice caught in traps and stuff cause. I like to just keep the mess contained in one spot, so there's nothing more to that. But no, so my doctoral research was working on what are called ecosystem services, but essentially services that wildlife or any other form of natural resource provides to humans. And so specifically, I was looking at the benefit that small mammals in crop fields in central Indiana, a lot of corn, soybean agriculture, that those small mammals and mice provide to farmers by consuming the seeds from weed plants. So, ragweed, call it whatever you want, growing in farmers' crop fields, and they have to spray a lot of herbicides to kill those weeds. And my research documented and found the amount at which small mammals like mice consume the seeds of those plants and prevent those weeds from growing in their field. So basically providing a service to those farmers by munching up all those seeds from plants that they don't want in their fields. So,
Whoa.
Yep. So spent a lot of time doing that. There was some spin-offs of my dissertation involving actually hantavirus. I had two technicians that were working for me at the time contract hantavirus.
What does that entail?
Yeah, so hantavirus is a virus that it can be deadly to humans. I mean, it's kind of in the news right now.
Oh, yeah.
Gene Hackman's spouse actually passed away from that recently. So it's mostly common in the southwestern United States, but it's a pathogen that's passed on to humans by mice, either through direct contact, like getting bit from a rodent, or from breathing in the aerosolized feces or other sorts of excrements from a small mammal. So that's why you hear out west and that kind of stuff, like cleaning out an old cabin where there's a bunch of mouse poop and that kind of stuff. It can lead to risk of hantavirus. So, anyways, I had two technicians contract it, unfortunately, but that led to some spin-off
but it's curable.
Projects. It is not curable. There's no. It is treatable, I guess you would say.
Okay.
So if you develop the symptoms, I guess, the way I would maybe describe the symptoms is kind of similar to, maybe like severe COVID type symptoms. It's a respiratory virus, but can be fatal, certainly, but mostly for folks that are either like older or have pre-existing conditions, that kind of stuff. But anywho, so that led to some disease elements of the project as well. So we were looking at prevalence of hantavirus and things like that in these native rodent populations in crop fields in central Indiana, because I went to Purdue, so central Indiana.
Yeah.
Does that come up at all on any of the calls you've gone on?
You know, that hasn't. No, it just hasn't. I mean, my like educational background just doesn't come up, right? I mean, you know,
but it gives you a good base for what you're doing, right? Like you're plenty knowledgeable about what you're doing, and there's confidence in that for us as the public.
Yeah, and I think that maybe speaks a little bit to even just the general ideology behind, you know, the officers with IDFG. I mean, most of us, we still do kind of have a functional requirement of having some sort of a science-based or wildlife degree of some kind. So, you know, the idea or the notion of having somebody who has a good background in wildlife ecology, the science behind all that kind of stuff, and then training that person to become a law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess I'm a good example of that, where before I got hired here and went to the police academy, I had 0 law enforcement experience, but certainly have a lot of, you know, education and just experience just from growing up hunting and fishing, that kind of stuff, to where I think a lot of our officers are really good at having those educational and life experiences that makes us able to speak to our public and be knowledgeable about the laws and that we're enforcing and the whys behind it. So,
Have you ever gotten a mouse Euro mounted before?
you know, that's I guess I have. I mean, the short answer to that is yes.
On purpose?
Do you have any in your office?
Well, so I guess this goes back to, so I had a dermestid colony at one point in time during my, actually bought the dermestids on Amazon.
Explain what that is real quick.
Oh yeah, so domestic beetles are, you know, they're a beetle that it's one of the ways that a taxidermist or other folks can produce a Euro mount, but they're essentially just, you know, flesh-eating beetles. So they pick away all the meat or flesh on a carcass or a skull, and that's how you, in theory, would get, you know, a European or Euro-mounted, you know, whitetail rack, or in theory, something as small as a mouse. So I had my own little private colony for a while. And mostly it was for other larger animals, but I did have a couple mice that were thrown in there. I don't have them anymore, but yes, at one point in time I did have a technically Euro mounted prairie deer mouse mount, I guess. So there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd love to see that on your wall with like a little wooden chevron badge or something, you know, mounted on it.
I should do that. I have pictures. So I have for my bachelor's, master's, and PhD, from the different research projects that I participated in each of those degree levels. I have a hand-painted oil drawing of a American widgeon that I studied in undergrad, a red-headed woodpecker that I studied for my master's, and then a prairie deer mouse that I studied for my PhD that hangs in my house. So yeah, kind of a cool little memento.
Yeah.
So,
Senior conservation officers.
Hold on,
if Jacob wanted to,
TJ's going
I
to
got a
jump
question
in.
for Kris. real
building
quick.
his resume.
Oh boy, I don't know if I want to follow all.
It's a good one. It's a good one. So you have a dog. You have a pup.
I do.
You're a houndsman.
I'm trying to be.
I don't know many. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty fun. It's interesting. I'd always wanted to get into it. You know, my grandpa did it, and I never lived anywhere where I thought I could have a hound dog. You know, and so I had bird dogs, and when I lost my bird dog, I said, you know what, it's time. I'm just going to bite the bullet and go for it. So I've got one dog, and this last winter, he just turned a year old. So this last winter, he was still a pup, but I got to take him out quite a few times. It was kind of rough, a lot of frozen snow and stuff to get him out. But it's really interesting just being out that time of year, you know, just looking at tracks and like seeing the different movements and what animals are doing. It's awesome. It's a blast, and getting to watch them work and their like natural ability. It's really rewarding and fun. But it puts the thing I'm learning is you have to have a lot of trust in your dog. I got to take him out with one of our coworkers' dogs, and it was really good for me to release him out with his dogs and just let them go. And I just had to sit back and just like let him do his thing. And it was kind of nerve-wracking because you're like, my dog's about a mile away right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on, what he's after.
Never
and
see him again.
Do you throw trackers on them?
And yeah, I've got a tracker on him, and so I mean that definitely helps. But you still don't know. I mean, what he's crossing, what he's trying to chase, what's going on. You just gotta, you know, put your trust in him that he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But but he's a blast, and man, he's got some character. So
What's his name?
Doc.
See, he's got a doctorate too. There you
Oh
go.
yeah, you also have a doctor.
Yeah, I really want it, so when I got home, I could be like, what's up, Doc?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And no, yeah, he's great, and yeah,
Did he tree anything?
no. So
This is his first winter. So
Yep,
a lot
that
of
was
it
his
just
first
training
winter,
and
I had
Couple pine squirrels.
yeah. I had one
of Chris's
really
kids.
good day that I thought we were going to get him. I cut one set of fresh tracks, and I actually had him on the lead. We were walking through, and then all of a sudden there's two more sets, and they do this zigzag, and they're kind of crossing like, back and forth, and it was kind of patchy snow, and so we're working, and he started to get really hot, like I thought he was on it, and so I was like, you know what? It's game time, just you and me, time to put that trust in. And so I let him go, and I'm trying to follow him as quick as I can, and all of a sudden I see him about 100 yards just take off, and I'm like, oh, he's on something. And I get up there, and there's 2 lion tracks going one way, and there's another set of lion tracks and 2 moose tracks going another way.
Whoa, he treat a moose?
He thought he was going to. As soon as I saw that, I walked a little bit further, and I could tell he was more on the moose than he was on the lion. So I called him back, and he came back, which was good. But it's a hard lesson to learn, and but it was good for him and I to learn that a little bit. So it's just going to be getting him out. But he was able to. I mean, he actually found some bobcat traps out there for me, following tracks, which made me kind of nervous. He was following tracks. He was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing, and it was actually interesting. This bobcat had gone, and someone had caught a rabbit in their trap, and the trap had been tripped and pulled out. The bobcat had gone and pulled the rabbit, most of it, out of the trap, was from what it looked like, and
What
but
a
my
way to
dog
go.
was sitting there and just like, doing circles around that trap. So I was lucky that it had been sprung though.
Yeah.
So he didn't get caught in it.
Do you, when you're out recreating, do you take note of some of that stuff, like on Monday, like if it was illegal, or you're gonna go check on it Monday? Does that fall into your job at all? You're just the way you recreate too?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to turn it off. I mean, you're out there and you take note of that stuff. And so and actually, I ended up meeting the guy whose trap it was, and he was a really cool guy, and talked to him for quite a while. And it's really, I mean, like the trappers and houndsmen, they're kind of a niche community, and so it's kind of interesting to be able to get in with them and talk with them, because they're out there more than most other people. They're out there, they're actually seeing what some of these animals are doing, and more obscure animals than people actually think about. And so it's, I don't know, and that was actually when I first got into this, I really thought, oh, I'm gonna be the outlier. Like, I'm gonna have the best bobcat dog there ever was. That's all we're gonna hunt is bobcats. Well, I quickly realized like that's not really feasible. Like they're really tough animals to go after, and you can't really be that picky. So, but it's a lot of fun, and I learn a lot about just being out there that time of year.
Have you been on any other successful cat hunts up here? Not with your dog, but just in the past or with other people?
No, I haven't. That was something. Yeah, I've had. I've never really been able to line it up with anybody that had dogs to go out, and the couple times that I've wanted to, things didn't work out. So no, I just kind of took it. And I had no idea what I was doing, and took it and just kind of running with it. I keep. I'm hoping this year will be the year.
I'll have to come hang out with you this week.
Hey,
man.
anytime. I put the word out there. Anybody wants to come out, like we just go cruise around and let him go do his thing. It's a blast. It really is. And I did learn to be picky about your days. Like I was going out there in freezing rain and just getting soaking wet, thinking if I'm not out here, I'm not gonna be able to catch something.
Yeah.
I mean, you might run into something, but set yourself up for success and like look at the weather, look at the conditions, and maybe go out there on the good days when you have a good opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you guys patrol the same area?
Yeah, because we still work for the state of Idaho.
Yeah.
Our badge has the
Yes.
has the emblem of Idaho on it. But no, yeah. So we're neighboring officers, I guess you would call it. Like our patrol areas abut against each other. So, yeah. I mean, we both work out of the Coeur d'Alene office here, but we have different patrol areas. So we kind of focus on different areas in the greater Panhandle.
And the Panhandle stretches from Canadian border down to what would be our southern
Well, there's not a good defined line, I guess, but
Yeah.
kind of
Tenset almost.
Yeah, kind of for folks that might be aware, but just south of Tenset, and then kind of extends roughly east from there on the south side of the St. Joe drainage to the Montana border.
Okay. And then on the west side,
West side would be Washington.
Washington, but not Oregon at all.
Nope. Yeah, because we don't get that far south. That'd be south of Lewiston.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So tell us what does a senior conservation officer do? How do you get senior strapped on the front of your
senior
title?
status? Senior doctor.
Because neither of you guys look like you're over 35. So what?
No, I mean,
how
it's
do you
really
get-
not. Honestly, it's the senior. It's a title they give you once you complete all your initial training.
Okay.
Like you get off your probation. You all through your FTO and everything, and basically say, you're blessed to go patrol out on your own, and
Yeah.
hey, now you're a senior. It just makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not the warden with the most gray hair. It's just you kind of
No, it just means you're almost there to that gray hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're well on your way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What is the top spot for COs? Is it district conservation officer?
Chief.
Well, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides the bureau, but I mean, from a regional standpoint.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
within a region, there's a regional conservation officer. One individual in each of the 7 IDFG regions has a regional conservation officer. And so for other police, hierarchies, that'd be like the equivalent of like a lieutenant or something like that, or a captain. And then within each region, there's either 1 or 2 or sometimes 3. Like in the Southwest region, what we call DCOs or district conservation officers. And they're essentially like the first line sergeant or like the field supervisor, supervising, anywhere from 4 to 7 SCOs or senior conservation officer. So within a region, it goes senior conservation officer, district conservation officer, regional conservation officer.
Gotcha. And so has your job changed at all since you guys were just normal conservation officers?
No.
Really. No, I mean, it just means that
Yeah.
you get to be out on your own,
Okay.
and they have the trust in you to go do the job, and you've passed all your initial testing.
Essentially, as conservation officer, when you're hired, you're still on probation for your first year. It's a probationary year, involves a lot of training, including things like going to the police academy, being on field training for several months. And so once you've completed those steps and have been hired and doing a good job in theory for at least a year, then you are taken off of probation and then promoted to the senior conservation officer position.
Cool. So what are some of those highlights that you guys have had out in the field being conservation officers for Idaho Fish and Game?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, every day is a little bit different. So you're talking like cases or things that have happened, or
Anything, yeah. What about weird stuff that you've come across out in the woods?
Yeah, well, I can tell you. So this one's kind of it's a little different because it's so I was working down in the Lewiston area, and I got a call about a suspected poached sow black bear, and with 2 baby cubs. And this was in the spring. Black bear season was open.
Were the cubs supposedly poached as well?
Nope, they were still there alive.
Okay.
Actually, the guy that called me was a technician for us, and so it was a really good report. It was down in this closed road section where it was walk-in access only, and kind of in an area that I'm like, man, this would really take someone knowing what they're doing to get down into some of this stuff. And so I went down there, and I was expecting to see the cubs somewhere around there too. And at that point, I never saw them. But there was this dead bear in the middle of this 2-track, this old like overgrown 2-track, and immediately I go, sweet, I've got a good case here, like something, I'm gonna figure out something. And so when we get these, we take our cases from big to small, and so I start looking, and I immediately go to that frame of mind, and I start taking pictures of the surrounding area, going, where was this shot from? Thinking that maybe someone shot this bear. Found out it was a sow with cubs and took off and left it. So I'm start doing this, and I get to the bear, and I start trying to look for wounds, look for injuries and things. And so I'm doing raking the bear, taking my fingertips and really going up and down and trying to find blood, trying to find any wounds, holes, anything. And I'm going all over the bear, and I'm finding nothing. There's no blood. There's no blood on the ground. I'm not seeing anything. And I go to pick up the bear's head, and right when I kind of go to move it, I hear it's like this squishy sound, and I'm like this feeling in it. I'm like, something's not right here, and so I kind of pick it up, and the top of its head is it's like broken, you know. So there's something going on. So I start skinning back the head, and quickly you can start seeing all the bruising and everything that happened on the top of the bear's skull, and the neck was broken, and the whole skull was broken, like straight in the center of the skull was completely broken, and that's where all the trauma was. And I skinned it all the way back to make sure there was no other trauma on the bear. There was no other sign of trauma anywhere else on the bear except for the head. And I'm thinking, what happened here? Like
No hole.
There's no hole anywhere. And there's
hardly any blood at all.
hardly. It's just trauma on top of the head, broken skull. And I'm really trying to figure out like what happened here.
And it takes a lot to crack a bear skull.
Takes a lot. And so I'm starting to think like, did this bear get in a fight? You know, was it another bear that did this? And thoughts are starting to go through my head, and I'm in this kind of canyon area, and all of a sudden, I see this rock that is like 2 feet from, not even 2 feet from the bear's head. And I'm looking at it, and it's kind of cracked too. I'm going, there's no way. And this thought is processing in my head going, this bear get hit in the head with a rock. And right about the time that thought's reaching my head, I hear this crashing sound, and a boulder fell and landed like 30 feet from me.
Oh.
And I was like, yep. So I was like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, I took the bear and left, and I brought it back to the office because I was like, I want to look at this further. And we opened it up further. I actually brought out one of my supervisors and a biologist there. I was like, you guys got to check this out because nobody's going to believe me.
No.
That was the other reason I brought it back. I was like, someone's got to see this, you know?
Did you take a picture of it like in its natural state where the rock was and stuff?
Yep. Yeah, I took all those and brought it back, and we opened it up, and you could see little pieces of rock on the top of the skull.
Wow.
And so yeah, it had been hit on the head with a rock.
How big was this rock? Like basketball?
A little bigger than a basketball.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It probably fell from how far?
Probably, I don't know, 50, 75 feet.
Goodness.
Yeah. So, and it's a narrow trail, and yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I'd survive that.
And the cubs were nowhere to be seen.
Cubs were nowhere to be seen. Who knows what happened to them? But he said that they were young of the year cubs, and so who knows? But yeah,
Wow.
It was kind of fun because you try to go into these cases, you get these reports, and you have these preconceived notions of what happened.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have those, right? You're like, you try not to have those, but at the same time, like, you can't help it. And that was one of the things I was taught, years ago in training was let the facts lead you to where the case should go.
Yeah.
And it was fun because just like slowly going through everything and letting the facts build that case. And ended up being one of the things that I'll remember forever, even though it didn't like end up in any kind of crime. It was just so unique.
Yeah. So. Whatever happened to the skull?
The skull was just shattered. So didn't do anything with it. I did skin back the hide, and we took it off and sold it in the fur sale.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So it did get.
So from the moment you walked up, you see this scene, and you're thinking somebody illegally killed this bear. Like, how long did it take you to come to the conclusion, like, oh, this was a rock that fell on this thing?
All in all, because by that point, like, taking the pictures and kind of doing a look around the area for bullets and stuff like that, and or casings and just whatever else I thought I might have before I got up to the bear, and we're probably talking an hour,
Okay.
and because I hadn't cut into the bear at all until I realized that there was something going on with the head, so that was the first place I cut, and as soon as I saw that, it kind of started coming together. So,
the rock lost its hunting license for a year.
It did. It did.
$500 fine.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's interesting, man.
Holy smokes.
Can you top that one, Jacob?
Not really, honestly, no. I can say, Kris is spot on there. A lot of times, a big part of what we do, big part of our job is, fielding calls from the public about a potential wildlife crime, right? And then we go out and investigate it. And so you just never know what you're going to find when you go out to investigate something, Sometimes you determine that there is a violation. Sometimes you determine that there is no violation, or maybe there is a violation but no suspect, so it can't really pursue it any further. Sometimes you make the case of a career out of it. So you just never know, and that's one of the elements of the position that's I don't know if fun's the right word, but it's definitely an enjoyable piece of it is, you respond to these calls. It's a big part of what we do, and you just never really know what that day, where that day is going to lead you. So I guess like if you're wanting like, unique stories or something like that, I don't know if it would top a bear being crushed by a rock, but it does involve Kris. So maybe some brownie points for that. But as an example, like you just never know where this job may take you on any given day. A couple months ago, Kris and I were out, just a routine patrol day. I think we got maybe a call about some unlawful OHV use or something like that, or whatever that we were responding to.
Do you guys go out much together?
Yeah, I mean, like
It's a little personal.
Yeah, it's a little personal. But no, yeah, I mean, we're certainly encouraged, and I think we do like to patrol or work with other officers, on a routine basis, and certainly that varies throughout the state, right? We have some officers that are assigned to remote areas, and there's no other officer within, hundreds of miles of where they're at.
We've talked to a couple of those guys, and they need to be by themselves.
Yep.
They can't handle other people.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, Kris and I we're people. But no, and so up here in the Panhandle, we do have several officers that live kind of in the greater Coeur d'Alene area, and so a benefit of that is there's other officers to assist either just on routine patrol and having a second set of eyes there for safety or otherwise, or for responding to calls where there's like a known or suspected violation call and you need somebody else to assist with it or whatever else. So yeah, so I mean, we do. I would say, I don't know, Kris, you can interject, but I would say we work together. Maybe not me and Kris specifically, but our officers work in teams frequently, and that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
And so. So I mean, one of these days, Kris and I are having the time of our life out patrolling together, and I think we were responding to a different call when a call came across the radio, and I specifically remember the call on the radio, and it was that there was a crocodile on the loose in downtown Post Falls, and they're needing some sort of police response, and so. And Kris and I are looking at each other like, well, I guess that's probably us because, we're the fish and game officers. And, and I grew up really liking Steve Irwin or whatever, right? So this was our chance.
Yeah.
But, we get calls all the time, right?
You put on the green shorts?
No, yeah. I immediately cut my duty pants in half. I cut them right at the mid-thigh.
Yeah.
Like a Dundee hat in the back.
Yep.
They just travel with those.
Right.
Just like this.
Yes, exactly. No, and so, going back to this concept of like you get calls and you just never know exactly what's going to come of it. And so certainly we get calls all the time that turn into nothing, Bigfoot's right around the corner, whatever it is, and it just leads to nothing.
Let's put a pin in that.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll get back.
There's a recent call about I mean, we can talk about that one. And so, so Kris and I, I don't want to say like, we were hesitant, but certainly we responded to it. But your brain starts thinking of like, what are the odds that there's actually a crocodile roaming the streets of Post Falls, and
then what do we do?
Yeah, and then what do we do if there is one? That little known fact that's not on the training regimen of an Idaho conservation officer is how to Yeah, I know. I immediately called a officer down in Florida and said, "Can you get here stat to go?" So we're responding, and actually like when we're on our way there, I think we're like 30 minutes out or something like that. And so as we're getting closer, I think we got a call or got an update from dispatch, and some Post Falls police officers had responded, and then we're on scene, and they relayed to us like, sure enough, like there is a crocodile like in the street. Can you guys get here really fast? And so not only that, the report at that point in time was there was a crocodile in the street, and then there was a large lizard up in a ponderosa pine tree nearby. And so we're thinking like, what the heck are we going to get into here? And so by the time we get on scene, sure enough, a guy living in Post Falls had and it wasn't a crocodile. It was a dwarf Cuvier's caiman, which I didn't know what that was, and I don't think Kris did either at that point in time, but certainly a crocodilian of some kind, and he had it as a pet unlawfully. He wasn't, technically allowed to have that or possess that as a pet in Idaho, but had that in a back shed of his, and it had just, broken loose. And so sure enough, in this, downtown Post Falls, Idaho, fairly urbanized for Idaho standards area, some neighbor saw this, caiman walking down the street, and his Nile monitor lizard had also broken out, and sure enough was 30 feet up a ponderosa pine tree. So probably not the Nile monitor's native habitat. Yeah.
It also starts. It sounds like the start of a Disney movie at some level too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Well, and then, and sure enough, and, Kris and I, everyone's looking to us as like, what are you guys going to do about this? And so we did what, every good officer or person should do. You called the fire department, and they showed up with their ladder truck to get this monitor lizard out of the tree. And the owner of the caiman showed up and helped wrangle up the caiman, and we got them back both contained. And I guess the long or the short answer to how that all got concluded is, so it is unlawful. He wasn't allowed to legally possess that caiman in Idaho, and so without the proper permits, and so the caiman was rehomed as well as the monitor lizard to a permitted rehab reptile museum down in Boise. So that's what
TJ, don't you have a
now
story?
it's our problem.
Don't you have an alligator something story on Coeur d'Alene Lake?
Tubbs Hill. Wasn't there a gator last 2 years ago?
Yeah, somebody called in and said there is one
I don't remember
on
that
a
at
rock.
all.
Huh.
Yeah.
I could have sworn you.
No,
I thought, and then I thought a CO went out there with a 22.
Yeah.
that's ringing a bell.
Yep.
I don't remember.
And I think it was a female conservation officer.
We've told this story multiple times.
Yeah. Maybe that's where
And it came from him.
maybe that's where the myth is coming from.
I wrote it.
Started.
It's news to me.
Yeah.
Maybe different.
Oh, maybe we need to stop listening to TJ and his stories.
Yeah.
You're just not figuring that out.
Yeah, it just hit me like a ton of bricks.
TJ's annual April Fool's press release.
There it
Boy,
is.
we just got it.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question on that. How big
Yeah.
are these things?
So they actually weren't making them sound way more aggressive and large and cool than they actually were.
They were
but
aggressive. Let's be honest.
yeah, they were aggressive. Yeah, that part is 100% true. But so it's a Cuvier's dwarf caiman. So they only grow to be 4 to 5 feet in length, and I don't know, including the length of the tail, maybe it was 3 feet long, 2.5 feet.
Still rip your hand off, though.
Oh yeah, I mean I was not looking forward to having to touch that thing. So luckily the owner of it, came back home and was able to corral it. But yeah, I mean it.
Did he have like a special whistle for it or something?
Yeah, laid out.
He had some
Yeah,
caiman-
he had the
some
caiman whistle.
treats,
Yeah,
but dwarf
caiman
caiman
treats.
treats.
Put it back on a leash?
yeah.
Dwarf treats.
When I lived back east for a while too, so like I'm familiar with like catching snapping turtles and that kind of stuff too. But to be honest, handling a gator or a crocodilian of any kind has never come across it's not my skill set. So.
No.
You said you grew up in Indiana. Does living out here in the Panhandle of Idaho give you a little bit of claustrophobia?
I guess no. So I actually grew up in California. So you can mute that part
Yeah,
out for
take that out.
the podcast. Yep. But then, so I ended up going to school back east. So I lived in West Virginia, lived in New York, lived in Indiana, and I've always had very close ties to Wisconsin, where my folks are from originally. So I guess the short answer to that is like no. I'm getting
Just
there's
where
no-
life took you.
Yeah, just where life took me. And, North Idaho is beautiful. It's actually very similar geographically and topographically to Northern California, where I went to undergrad. So, no, I think it's a
Where'd you
beautiful...
go, Humboldt?
Humboldt, yep, on the Northern California coast. So, similar terrain, right? Very dense, thick, mostly, coniferous forest and water and that kind of stuff. So, North Idaho is beautiful, and no, I don't get claustrophobic.
Does it make the job harder than those guys that maybe are patrolling the deserts where they can see for miles and miles at a time?
I mean, I would say certain elements of it, absolutely. And so, I started my career down in Idaho Falls and, patrolling down in those areas, which, much different environment than we have here in North Idaho. And so, yeah, there's a certain element to routine patrol efforts where you can actually see people and see animals and that kind of stuff. Certainly can focus your efforts a lot more easily than up here where, there could be 300 head of, elk across the, creek from the McGee cabin that you were at over the last couple of days, and you just don't know they're there, right? Because it's so thick and forested. Similarly, there could be a couple hunters, cutting up an animal out of season, and you just don't know it because you can't see it. So, seeing overt violations is tougher for us up here in North Idaho than it is for folks in Southern Idaho. So we rely on other techniques, and certainly every officer throughout the state relies on folks, members of the public calling and reporting violations to us. And certainly up here, that is definitely something that we rely very, very heavily on, just because of the terrain somewhat dictates that as well.
What percentage of contacts or cases that come up between the two of you guys stem from interactions with the public or calls coming in from the public as opposed to you just sniffing them out organically?
I mean, we get a lot of calls, and so we obviously go out and do our day-to-day stuff where we go out and we can check licenses and we go patrol around and look for stuff going on, and every now and then we bump into stuff, which is great. But as far as when we make a lot of the cases start with a call, because there's a lot more of the public out there than there are of us,
right?
So there's a lot more eyes out there on that end. So having the public be good witnesses and willing to call in and say something if they see something is huge. That's a huge win for us. We need that support because there's, like I said, there's a lot more of them than us, and so we get a lot of our calls. I'd say a majority of our good cases start with a call.
Yeah, and to follow up, I would say the key word there that Kris just said is good cases, and I don't know if good's the right word, but maybe more severe or egregious wildlife crimes are more frequently detected through folks calling and reporting those potential violations to us and us investigating it. Certainly, back to your original question, Connor, you asked what percentage or what frequency of violations do you come across either through patrol or that are getting called in and reported to us. And we're pretty good at our jobs, and our routine patrol efforts do yield a lot of violations detected. They're just more likely to be the less severe type violations. It's folks fishing without a license, fishing with too many fishing poles and not having a permit, fishing with a barbed hook, taking a motorized vehicle where they shouldn't be, tagging issues, tagging violations, check stations, folks coming through those, and various violations that result from that. And so the cases that that are newsworthy or otherwise, right, the ones involving detailed investigations and stuff like that are resulting in these more egregious wildlife crimes or severe ones that people think of, those are the ones that are very difficult for us, especially here in North Idaho, to just stumble across some guy who has killed an elk out of season and is sneaking it back to his home or something like that. Southern Idaho may be a little bit different. We used to you can observe and watch things happen a little bit more, but certainly up here the more severe crimes are detected via folks reporting it to us, and that's just the way it is, and that's why we appreciate and support folks doing that so much.
Do you feel like there's any sense of entitlement at all? Like, this is ours, we can do what we want?
You mean from members of the public?
Members of the public.
Certainly. Yeah, there's a whole field, I guess, of environmental or wildlife ethics where people just have different values and perceive wildlife differently, right? And so there's certainly a segment of the public that don't view wildlife as a communal or shared resource, right? They maybe view it as they have a right to take or harvest that animal regardless of whatever laws are put in place to say otherwise. And so a lot of that, I think, is, there's a bunch of different reasons why folks can develop those values, but certainly there's a segment of the public where you can tell them, however different ways you would like to, or explain it, but ultimately they're gonna view that they have a right to those animals regardless of what you say.
Coming up to Coeur d'Alene, when we have to come up here, we come up here for commission meetings by and large, and so far it's been 3 years in a row, and we've done May, we've done twice in the summer. So we've seen now Coeur d'Alene twice in July, and this place is packed. What there's a lot of visitors from out of state that aren't hunting like here to chase elk or mule deer or whitetails or bears or whatever. What are those interactions, if there are any, with just the vacationing public?
I mean, like if they're not fishing, they're not hunting, they're not doing anything.
Right. And I'm thinking of an occasion where like my family came up here and there was signs around Tubbs Hill that there was a mountain lion seen.
Gators on the loose.
Well, TJ doesn't remember that, so I don't think
TJ took
we're
care
gonna
of it.
stop telling that story.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is that interaction with? Like, I mean, that one's probably a flash in the pan, but still there needs to be consideration made.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly that speaks to one of the elements of our job, or the role that a conservation officer plays in Idaho, and that's to, communicate with the public about different concerns and needs related to wildlife. And so that could be things like, I mean, I'm the Coeur d'Alene officer, right? So that those calls about a potential mountain lion sighting at Tubbs Hill, I'm fielding those. I'm speaking to those individuals, and some of them are potentially from out of state and don't have much of an understanding for the local wildlife community here, or what maybe to expect or not expect. But that's part of our role, is to be able to communicate with those folks. No different than somebody who has been living in North Idaho their whole life and also has concerns or issues related to wildlife. So, I mean, certainly there's some folks that just have a better understanding of our wildlife community here in Idaho, and others that are maybe a little more naive to it. I don't know if naive is the right word, but they just don't know. But in part because they're not from here. I guess if I go vacationing, in Jamaica, I probably wouldn't have a great understanding for whether or not seeing a venomous snake on the beach is normal or not. So I may call that in or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So communicating with those people, and sometimes it's as simple as communicating to them, whatever perceived risk they may think is not necessarily as heightened as they may feel. So there's just that's stems to come back full circle just to the educational piece of the job. There's formal education that we do. We teach hunter education, we teach trapper education, we put on youth field days, that kind of stuff. But it's all that informal education that we do on a daily basis, and every contact, whether that's somebody who calls with a concern, or we're just talking to somebody because I'm out checking fishing licenses at Tubbs Hill in downtown Coeur d'Alene, and I'm walking the trail, and somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I saw this thing. What does this mean?" or whatever. And it's all education. It's all just communication and education.
You haven't been asked to put on a Idaho Animals class at Gaza Ranch yet, have you?
I have not. No, that hasn't hit my desk yet. I guess I probably wouldn't say no. We say yes to a lot of requests like that. So
just to go teach all the people from LA what a mountain lion is or a bobcat is.
I actually had a lady call last week. She called into the one of the local dispatch centers, and the call came to us, and there was a moose. She was out hiking, and she's local. She's been here, but apparently the moose wasn't leaving her alone. And I'm thinking, I don't, we get a lot of these calls, and I don't know what's going on. I figured by the time I call her, she's going to be back to her vehicle or whatever it is. But I called her, and she was actually up in a tree, and she had her dog who was behaving, amazingly, right underneath the tree, laying down. And she'd just been out on a hike on a pretty popular hiking trail, and there's a little bit of brush, kind of a swamp section, and there was a cow and calf moose.
Oh boy!
And she turned the corner, and the cow they saw each other at the same time, and so the cow came at her, and she went up the tree. The dog laid down there, but the cow wasn't leaving. So I'm on the phone with her, and she's telling me what the cow is doing. And she's like, "Oh, it's walking away. It's walking away." And then all of a sudden she goes, "Oh, it's coming back." And I was on the phone with her for quite a while, just trying, because I'm like, there's nothing I can do at this point. I'm hours away. We don't have anybody close to you. There's nothing we could really do anyway. But she said, she goes, "It's comforting just having someone to talk to." She goes, "I've been around moose my whole life." She goes, "This one won't leave me alone, and I'm fine sitting here and waiting it out. I just want you guys to know what's going on."
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up just talking to her for a while, and she was just telling me, and finally she goes, "I think it's leaving. I'm just going to stay up here in the tree for a while, and I'll call you when I get back to my car." And she called me an hour later. She goes that another hiker came up the trail, and she joined in with them, and they went down. And but I think just being understanding, and listening to people's concerns, and you never know what the day is going to bring.
And that's how you met your wife?
Yeah.
Really talked her off a ledge.
Yeah.
Man. I had two more questions for you, and then we can kind of go around and do a concluding thought thing. And you kind of hit on it a little bit, Kris. But what are some more examples of phone calls or just calls that you guys get that are from well-meaning folks, but they're things that you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna follow up on this. It's an interesting observation that you have, but yeah, this is not.
Well, and we get calls about all sorts of things. Things that you're just like, is this really a call? Is this real life right now? But we take it all seriously, and I would say that a majority of our officers, if not all, we really try to give everybody a call back. Like there's not many calls that would come through unless the person on the reporting party says that they don't want to call back. More often than not, they're going to get a call back from me, and I'm going to say, hey, what's going on? I'm going to listen to their side of it, and I'm going to tell them the truth. What I can and can't do, what my thoughts are. I'm not going to give them hopes of me being able to rescue something I can't rescue.
Sure.
If there's a wounded animal, which is often a big large portion of our calls come, people concerned public about a wounded animal. And sometimes, the animal's not wounded. Sometimes it is. But a lot of times there's still nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie to them and give them false hope. I'm going to, I'll be straight up with them. And I also tell them, I'm going to give that animal a chance to survive. We're going to leave it alone and let nature take its course. And there's a lot of animals. Animals are tough. Animals will... I've seen plenty of three-legged deer out there, and there's deer that there are animals that have survived years and gone off to have offspring, that have been hit by a vehicle, and so, so wounded animals, just animal sightings, people thinking that they saw a mountain lion near them. Yeah. I know we followed up.
It was Bigfoot.
Yeah, we had one where we followed up on a mountain lion sighting on a golf course. It ended up being owls.
Oh, really?
And rocks.
Yeah, close.
Yep. So yellow eyes.
Yeah.
Is what they saw. You never know. You never know what you're gonna get. But we take it all seriously. I mean, we still went out and checked it out. Just we do what we can. We can't respond to every single call, but we try to at least let you know that we take it all seriously.
Okay. My last question here is, so every time TJ publishes a conservation officer story every once a week, it seems like, why are
you guys
all
are busy up here?
Yeah, keeping TJ busy. Why are all the bust photos taken at night?
I mean, because they're long days.
Okay.
The investigations. You never know when.
You don't intentionally wait for the sun to go down before you.
We got to make it seem more dramatic, right?
Yeah, about the yellow eyes.
You guys watch good. You always watch cop shows.
Yeah,
They all take.
They all happen at
right?
night. Yeah,
So
nothing good happens after midnight.
Well, nothing interesting or exciting happens during the day with busts or cops or whatever. It's all. Yeah, I guess it's all at night. Huh. I've always wondered that though.
Yeah.
Bieri, TJ, you guys got any final things you want to? What about you guys? Do you have anything you want to ask TJ? Put him on the spot. He looks super calm and collected over there.
Super comfy. I just love hearing you. I don't know, just like hearing you guys talk about the ways that you guys interact with the public. Just because I talk to a lot of people like you guys do, and I see it online too because I manage our social media accounts, and people think that you guys are. All you do is check gates or checking licenses, writing tickets, and there's so much more to the job. And you guys, just scratch the surface of that from the educational piece when you're, talking to that lady on the phone. That's super cool. Like that is a very unique aspect of the job that I don't think really anybody else in this office can relate to, that you guys fill that niche. And I think
Except for the front office staff.
Front office staff, yes. But I'm just constantly reminded that, like, in the communities where you guys work, you guys are, like, super invested in those communities and super known and immersed in the communities. And I think that's a very, very cool trait of being a conservation officer for Fish and Game.
There's certainly a lot of the aspects of the position, that that the general public or even our sporting public just don't know or fully recognize, and really the only people to blame for that is us, right? And we don't do necessarily a great job of telling our story sometimes.
That feels directed at me.
Well, that's, you were the one leading the question. So, we have all communications folks in here. So that's,
there you go.
No, I mean, and that's, that's probably happened, obviously since before I was with this agency, and, hopefully we can chip away at it to, to change that narrative. But like a poignant example of this was a couple weeks ago, we had a jury trial here in Kootenai County on a fairly egregious wildlife crime. And so when the jury trial was over, I think, Kris, you might have even been right there with me when this happened. And so the case was over, the jury was done, and one of the jurors came up to us afterwards, after having sat through 2 days of us testifying and talking about this case and the detailed investigative work that goes into it and everything involved. And the juror said, "I got to be honest with you, like, I've been hunting and fishing in Idaho my whole life, but I did not know that you guys do that, like the stuff that we described, in this trial, all the work that was put into it." And so there's one example, and that really stuck with me. I think it stuck with Kris too, of, folks just they don't know what we do. And so that's really on us to try to tell that story. And so I guess, high five, Kris. We're doing a little bit of it right now by being on this podcast. But I think it is important. I think it's important for the public to know what we do and why we do it. I think, the public does understand to a fairly good degree, I think. We've done some survey work to even understand how well the public knows what we do, but also communicating the why piece as well, as to why it's important that we have Fish and Game enforcement officers enforcing these rules and regulations and laws that are put into place, and why that's important for the overall management of our wildlife resources in Idaho. And so, I guess just to circle back again, I think it's just important for us to tell our story. And so I appreciate you all for, having us on and giving us the opportunity to do that.
So if somebody has to make a call to you guys, how would they go about doing that? If somebody sees something egregious, or they get wind in a bar and they're like, "This doesn't sit good, I need to call somebody," how do they do that?
Well, so we always, or at least I always, encourage folks to utilize the Citizens Against Poaching hotline number. And so that's the most effective way to ensure that the call is fielded, first off, and then second off, that it's dispatched or sent out to appropriate, officers in the area that the suspected crime, has happened. And that's specific and unique to wildlife crimes, or anything that, folks think that there's some unlawful activity related to wildlife or fisheries has happened. That's the source or the resource that they should utilize. Certainly calling our regional offices is perfectly fine and appropriate. But honestly, if you do suspect a wildlife crime or have any information related to one, or, would like follow up by an officer, utilizing that Citizens Against Poaching hotline number is the best way to ensure that call is fielded and dispatched out. And then for, violation type calls, things related to nuisance wildlife, or,
Raccoons in the backyard.
Yeah, raccoons in the backyard, or there's a, moose that's, scaring you, things like that. Certainly, if, the regional offices are probably the best place to utilize to have those calls and concerns, fielded and then sent out to our officers. Because certainly there's other non-enforcement personnel at Fish and Game offices that can help with those types of questions and concerns too. It's not necessarily something that a conservation officer or a law enforcement officer has to necessarily answer. A lot of our non-enforcement folks can help the public with those non-enforcement type questions related to wildlife as well.
Cool.
Man, that was a big elk that you're holding there, Jacob, in this photo here. TJ's press release. I think the press release could have been better written, but the case was a hell of a case.
Yeah, that was a case from last year, and going back to telling our story, we really appreciate TJ ensuring that these stories are told, and the stories aren't put out there, right, to brag about our accomplishments or our work, or try to say, hey, look at what a good job we do. These press releases or the publication of these type of cases is meant to discourage other folks from doing this type of activity. It's meant to instill within the other, legal, ethical hunters of the state of Idaho that this type of behavior shouldn't be allowed. And so if you see this type of behavior, call and report it to us, so that way we can hold those folks accountable. So this is just one example of hundreds of cases that our officers throughout the state make every year, and it just happens to involve a fairly large and unique animal, and so it gets a little more press. But ultimately, if somebody calls in and reports somebody for a more minor fish and wildlife crime, it's going to get handled and investigated just the same by our officers. And so it's important to report any wildlife crime, not just ones involving a trophy bull elk that a lot of folks are familiar with. So,
and the photo was taken at night.
It was.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the if you get to know this off the top of your head, the cap line? What is that?
Yeah. So it is.
What's the number?
1-866. 59. No, it's
Nope.
like 5999.
Nope. See,
I know
this
there's
is how
3 digits
misinformation
somewhere in
gets spread by our communication.
Leave it to the office.
Yeah, leave
Yeah.
it to the experts.
Oh, that was gonna be one of my rapid fire questions.
Yeah. So the CAP hotline number is 1-800-632-5999.
There it is.
So, and I teach a wildlife law enforcement class at University of Idaho every spring, and Barry Cummings, a DCO in the Upper Snake region, started the class. But that is one of the questions on the final: is what is the CAP hotline number? So I also have to have it memorized because I got to grade the exams.
What is it,
You
Chris?
would have failed, Connor.
Oh yeah, big time.
It's also the funniest thing too. Folks don't have that number memorized, right? And so, anytime I do any sort of educational opportunity, I always, one of my shticks is to have folks pull out their hunting or fishing license, and that number is on the back of it. Folks just forget that. They don't realize it. They don't see it. They don't notice it. So I always have folks pull out their phones, and of course everyone has their phone on them nowadays. And then I say, in order to pass this class, you have to enter that phone number into your phone and save it as the CAP hotline number to ensure that you always have it with you. So we're not all like Connor and forgetting what the number is in the matter of moments. Yeah.
I'm more with Chris. Just Google it.
Yeah, I got it on the.
It's hard to Google it when you're out in the middle of
Yeah.
the woods.
That way I can
Yeah.
flip it over.
Well, fellas, thank you so much for sitting down and giving us the time. And TJ, thanks for
Absolutely.
organizing all this together, man. We're gonna probably crank out another one of these here soon. But yeah, really enjoyed talking to you guys, and really enjoyed meeting you. And thanks for all that you guys do. You're kind of the Swiss Army knives of the agency.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks
we
for
get
the
to take care of you guys.
Thanks for having us. This is fun.
Cheers.
Cheers.